Let's go straight to Greg Sheridan. He's foreign editor at the Australian newspaper. Greg, President Biden confirming the timeline pushed it back a bit for the withdrawal of the last of the US troops in Afghanistan.
Yeah, Kieran, this is a very big development. The US has to get out of Afghanistan eventually. You'd have to say that the mission in Afghanistan has been 70% of failure. For years and years now, I've been arguing that Australia makes no contribution there. And I think the terrible crisis we've seen in the SAS is a result of their massive over-deployment of a tiny force again and again and again. After 20 years, they've either stood up a local government or they haven't. There's no guarantee that when they leave, there won't be a terrible bloodbath and the Taliban return to power that would reflect a further desperate failure on America's part. But this has been a poorly executed war over 20 years with massive amounts of money spent. And we have done some good for the Afghan people, but we have not put the good we've done on a sustainable footing. And the day of reckoning has to come when the Americans leave, and it's a question of whether the Afghan government, with Allied support, can stand up or not.
A huge challenge and great uncertainty on that front. Also, a lot of uncertainty internationally about where the response is on COVID-19. As you look internationally, how do you weigh it up in terms of vaccine procurement, in terms of daily case numbers? What's your take?
It's an incredibly mixed and complicated picture, Kieran. And the one thing I'd say to you for sure is that at every turn, this virus has surprised us. I saw Mark Butler referring to the South African strain, which looks as though it can get through some vaccines. It's too early to make too much of that, but the ability of the virus to mutate in a way that defeats immunisation is a big worry for the people who study it. Some countries which did very well early because they had younger population profiles, such as India and parts of Africa, are now being ravaged by new strains which seem to infect younger people more. The death rate has gone down in Britain and the United States. That's fantastically good news. But Boris Johnson in the UK said rather perplexingly in the last 48 hours that the decline in the death rate was not because of vaccinations, but because of lockdowns. Now, I don't understand how that can be true, but if that's what the Prime Minister says, then you have to consider that lockdowns will be part of the future as well as part of the past. It's certainly important that we get as many people vaccinated all over the world as soon as possible so that the reservoir population for mutation declines. But this is an ongoing battle where, you can't say the virus has been defeated as yet.
No, indeed. And to another issue I want to get your thoughts on, the comment made last week by the new Defence Minister, Peter Dutton. He said that Defence has to get back to its core business. Give us your take on that. Has it lost its way to an extent?
Yes, I thought that was a very important statement by Peter Dutton, and it's been amplified by Andrew Hastie, saying that the core business of Defence is the application of lethal force. What do you have a Defence Force for? You don't have a Defence Force for social policy. Of course, all the soldiers have to behave ethically and with proper equity considerations in accordance with the rules of law and the values of the nation and so on. But just as the purpose of a hospital is to treat sick people, it's not to produce, nice outcomes within its internal staff or something. That's a secondary matter. The purpose of a Defence Force is to engage and kill the enemy if that's what's necessary. And the ability to do that hopefully deters potential enemies from having a crack at us. We have not produced typically a war-fighting force in Australia. We decided to purchase Apache attack helicopters, and bizarrely we call them armed reconnaissance helicopters because we're too polite to use a word like attack. Why don't we call them friendship helicopters or something? The point of a defence force is that it can destroy an enemy. It can kill an enemy. That's what you have it for. That's why peaceful societies can sleep easy at night. And I think it's a great pity that the Brereton inquiry, which is a very serious matter, deserves to be taken with the utmost seriousness. Great pity that it demonised the word warriors, because our soldiers do need to be warriors. That's what they're there for. And I think Dutton and Hastie are right to focus the core interest of defence back there. After all, if the Chinese decide one day to shoot up one of our ships in the South China Sea, they might be deterred if they think that we have the capability to hit back and cause unacceptable damage. They won't be deterred by, the pursuit of woke social policies within the Australian Defence Force.
Greg, appreciate it as always. Greg Sheridan, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kieran.